Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this brand new edition of Wrestling for the Culture, brought to you by the Wrestling Wrealm. Before we get started, go ahead and like this YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us at Wrestling Wrealm on Twitter and on Instagram, and subscribe to us anywhere you get your podcast at. So, what is Wrestling for the Culture? Wrestling for the Culture is started off as a weekly column on thebrianhwaters.com, where I would just write about the updates and what the wrestlers of color had done for the week, primarily if they were victorious or had a great match. I decided, you know what, why not take this to video? So shout out to all of the supporters out there. Thank you for all your retweets. Thank you for all your likes. And thank you for your submissions. I want to give a special shout out to the one, the only Dr. D, which you can find him at The Real Dr. D. He's one of the guys who's at just about every independent wrestling show in the DMV and sometimes up and down the East Coast. He a lot of times will tag me, hey man, or he even call me, pick up the phone, just want to give you this update, B. You know, he was also the orchestrator of the Dream Panel, which you can check out in your local areas coming soon. So we're going to get right into it. And guess what? For those you know, the WWE Universal Champion is a wrestler of color, Roman Reigns. Roman defeated Brock Lesnar. Finally, somebody did it to become the brand new Universal Champion. And this past week on Monday Night Raw, he was reunited with his brothers of the Shield. So how about that? So Roman Reigns and the Shield back together, and they would make sure they protected the biggest prize on Monday Night Raw, that being the Universal Championship. So, speaking of champions of color, we got new tag team champions. For the fifth time, the New Day are your new tag team champions as they defeated the Bludgeon Brothers this past Tuesday on SmackDown Live, a team that won the titles at WrestleMania. Didn't seem like they was ever going to lose them. So some people may say, oh man, I wish the New Day would have just won the belts at SummerSlam. Guess what? Me personally, I like it because it doesn't get lost in the shuffle, and they close out the weekend in Brooklyn with a win. Make sure you check out Break It Down with Brian H. I went over this past Tuesday, Wednesday on the podcast. So then, speaking of the New Day, the one and only Xavier Woods. Everybody knows he's a gamer. I play video games, but I wouldn't challenge Xavier Woods to a gaming contest. Nonetheless, Xavier Woods, he is now entered into the Guinness Book of World Records as he has over 1,633,509 subscribers. He goes into the record book for the most subscribed celebrity gaming channel. Congratulations to him. Then on NXT, the EST of NXT, Bianca Belair returned this past Wednesday with a win over Deonna Purrazzo. Purrazzo making her debut. Bianca Belair is somebody that I say, in my opinion, she will be your next NXT Women's Champion. So, moving on to the women of Impact Wrestling. Kiera Hogan was victorious in an incredible match, victory over Alicia Edwards. So, a huge win for Kiera. We'll see where that puts her as she looks to get into the picture of the Knockouts Championship. And speaking of Impact, Moose showed up. He returned. Finally, you know, we all know Moose came up short at Slammiversary at the beginning of the summer. Him and Austin Aries on, you know, Impact Wrestling. If you haven't been watching, you're missing out because it's been some good stuff right there. Moose shows up at Impact this past week to help Eddie Edwards, who was getting beat down by Austin Aries, and Killer Cross. Let's move on to Nova Pro, and this is some of the information from Dr. D, as he's Nova Pro's biggest fan. We're going to start off with Faye Jackson getting a victory over the one and only Miss Barbie Hayden. And then he tells me that Isaiah Frazier and Josh Fuller, Isaiah Frazier defending his Crab Wrestling Championship. He's still the champ, folks, as these two wrestled into a draw. And as Dr. D said, it was an incredible match. And then Big Eric Royal defeated John Schuyler. So that is it for Nova Pro as their program, at their program Summer of George. And then last but certainly not least, we have a new Universal Independent Wrestler U.S. Champion, and his name is Owen Knight. So, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you are subscribed to Break It Down with Brian H. And it's right there in case you missed last week's episode. It's still time before this week's episode of Raw and SmackDown air. Make sure you get it right on our YouTube channel, on iTunes. Make sure you check it out. Stitcher, Google Play, Spotify, and of course, make sure you subscribe to YouTube and like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Instagram at Wrestling Wrealm. Ladies and gentlemen, that is this week's Wrestling for the Culture. Until the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everyone.